Hey everyone, I hope everyone is doing well. So today we are going to look at the final part three of caches, design and concepts. In part one and two, we covered a lot of properties around caches, eviction policies, caches invalidation methods. Also looked at I think in general about caches, use cases, right? The industry examples. So today we are going to finally wrap it up with discussion on Redis and Memcached. These are probably the most frequently and widely used types of caches in most of the use cases when you're designing caches. Some of the key similarities, I think, if you look at it, both Memcache and Redis are open source, no SQL key value, in-memory data storage caches. Also, other similarities basically include, like, you can distribute data among multiple nodes. One of the key, I think, differences that certainly one should keep in mind is the kind of data structures that are supported by Redis compared to Memcached. So Memcache basically supports only strings and integers, whereas data structures supported in Redis include strings, lists, sets, sorted sets, hashes, bit arrays, and hyperlog logs. So uh, I think depending on your use case, for example, if you're looking at generating a sorted list, then it could be used in a variety of examples. For example, in a gaming leaderboard, right, you want to show the top 10 players, and those top 10 players keep on, like, changing over a period of time, but you want to do a quick storage of that, right? Sorted sets, so basically top 10 players by whatever number of point, number of shoots, whatever it is, right? You can use sorted sets, right? uh, I think on the differences side, continuing, the read and write speeds are slower, as compared to Memcache. Um, you also have support for persistent data and sharding in Redis, whereas there is no support for any persistent data and sharding in Memcache. Uh, Redis is single threaded, and so for applications that require multiple threading and scaling vertically instead of scaling horizontally, I think Memcache would be a better choice. Uh, there's, I think, argument about the master slave architecture on Redis, which kind of adds to the complexity, because the master slave architecture basically means that you have, let's say, two slave nodes and one master node. The master node fails, then the slave tries to replicate the master, and you look at it from the scale that Redis provides on a horizontal level. If you're doing these computations over multiple ms points, then that basically adds to a lot of complexity, right? Whereas with Memcache, because it is it is supporting multi-thread operations, it is much easier to separate out these kind of operations. In terms of, I think, cache eviction policies, Memcache only supports least recently used, whereas there are a bunch of, I think, cache eviction policies on Redis, which includes all keys RSU. So remember, these both Memcached and Redis are key value, data storage, which means you have a key and then you have a value against it, and you basically use that to store, right, data. All keys RSU basically means the keys that you are storing uh, in the cache, those can have a LRU applied to that, and then the least recently used keys will be evicted out of the cache, right? Volatile LRU, again, the only difference between all keys LRU and volatile LRU is that there is some time expiration that is set, and then again you use the least recently used algorithm to basically identify which one of those you want to evict, correct? All keys randomly, basically no preference to any key, just remove keys randomly. Random volatile, not seen in much cases. Basically, there is an expiration time set, and then on top of that, you would also remove keys randomly, which is kind of contradicting, because if you're setting up an expiration time, right, and if that key has not been used, in that, then you can basically design, or put a logic, and you can remove that. The remove random removal, probably, like, if you have the only I think explanation that I can think of is that you might have too many key that are like, set with, maybe, let's say, similar kind of expiration time, right? And then you want to basically introduce random removal. You don't want to create any sort of bias in removing keys out, right? So that's the only time that you would use both of these. Otherwise, I think all keys are is LRU, and I think volatile LRU will serve you for most of the purposes. Most of it. Again, remember, I think Redis definitely gives you more option in terms of the variety of operations that you can perform: persistent data support, sharding, multiple cache eviction policies, multiple kind of data structures that are supported, right? Uh, and Memcache, as simple as it sounds, I think if your application primarily is focusing on multi-thread, design, and you're not so much looking to process the data across, let's say, layers, and then sharding. I mean, sharding. Think of sharding as like, okay, if you were to, like, design a database that is being put across multiple continents, right? In industry, it is not very uncommon to hear that you have data centers for, let's say, one geography, then you have data centers for, let's say, Europe, then you have data centers for North America, then you have data centers for South America, things of that nature, right? So I think in all of those cases, I think Memcache probably will not work as impactfully as, like, Redis would. uh, I think Redis also integrates very well with the Elastic Cache on AWS. uh, you can check with, I think, the GCP documentation and Azure documentation. I think they definitely will have support for both. But use case wise, I think predominantly maybe Redis might be a preferred choice. You'll also always have to keep, I think, the cost considerations in mind. When you're making these decisions, there is no straightforward answer. So look at, I think, the pros and cons. Look at the cost structure. Look at how you are designing your application, and then take a call on which one supports better your use case. I hope this was useful. And with this, we come to the conclusion of caches, 3-part series. In the next episode, I would try to cover message queues, uh, and then also look at, in the lecture thereafter, like load balancer. Uh, these are, I think, concepts that don't require you to spend a lot of time, but if you know those concepts, it really, like, helps you in your preparation for product management interviews. Please do subscribe to the channel, and also leave comments if you like me to cover any concept that you are not able to grasp. That's it for now. Thanks for